The moment Jimmy Kimmel leaned forward and dropped the nuclear bomb on live television, accusing Donald Trump of fathering Barron with his own daughter Ivanka. The president's legendary swagger shattered in real time, exposing the most explosive, twisted family secret America had ever witnessed on national TV. The lights in the Jimmy Kimmel Live studio were bright and hot. The audience packed into those tight rows in the basement studio, clapping and cheering as the band played a quick riff. Donald Trump walked out from backstage with that big, familiar grin, waving like he owned the place. He was in his second term now, still moving with that confident swagger that always filled up a room. The crowd went wild, some chanting, USA, while others just clapped politely. Trump shook Jimmy's hand, sat down in the guest chair, and leaned back like this was going to be another easy chat. They started off light, the way these shows always do. Jimmy asked about the weather in Florida, how his golf game was holding up, and a quick story about a recent rally somewhere in the Midwest. Trump laughed it off, throwing in a couple of his usual lines about making America great again. The audience chuckled along, the vibe feeling normal and loose. For a few minutes, it really seemed like just another late-night interview. Then Jimmy shifted in his seat. His smile faded a bit, and he leaned forward looking straight at Trump. The room didn't notice the change right away, but something in the air felt different. Jimmy's voice stayed calm, almost too calm, as he dropped the bomb. Mr. President, Barack Obama and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett have both come out and said something pretty wild. They claim Barron isn't really Melania's son. They say he's yours and Ivanka's. What do you say to that? The words hit like a slap. For 3 full seconds, Trump just froze, his face locked up, that trademark confident look cracking for the first time. The camera zoomed in tight on his face, catching every twitch. The entire studio went dead silent. No laughs, no murmurs, nothing. You could hear the hum of the lights. Trump gave a tiny shake of his head, almost like he was brushing away a fly. He muttered under his breath, just loud enough for the mic to pick it up, "Nonsense." But he didn't deny it straight out. He didn't laugh it off or hit back with one of his usual comebacks. He just sat there, eyes narrowing. Jimmy didn't jump in right away. He let the silence hang there for a solid 8 seconds. No jokes, no soft music, no nothing. Just that heavy, uncomfortable quiet while the audience held its breath. Trump shifted in his chair, trying to play it cool, but his shoulders looked tighter. Jimmy kept his eyes locked on him, waiting, letting the weight of that one question sink deeper into the room. This wasn't going to be a normal night, not even close. Trump finally opened his mouth, but the words came slow. "Look, Jimmy, I'm not getting into that kind of garbage. We've got real problems in this country." His voice had that edge, the one he used when he wanted to shut something down fast, but it didn't land the way it usually did. A few people in the audience whispered. Someone coughed nervously. Jimmy nodded like he understood, but he didn't let it go. He stayed right there, calm as ever, and the tension kept building in those few extra beats of silence he held on to. Trump leaned back in the chair and shook his head again, his face tightening. "I'm not talking about that," he said flatly. A second later, he repeated it louder this time. "I'm not talking about that." By the third time, his voice had that sharp edge everyone knew too well. "I'm not talking about that nonsense, Jimmy. Move on." The audience shifted in their seats, the energy in the room changing fast. Jimmy Kimmel didn't flinch. He just nodded slowly, like he expected exactly this reaction, and kept his eyes locked on Trump. Then Jimmy reached for the control on his desk and played a short video clip on the big screen behind them. It was an old interview with Dr. Harlan Reed, the former longtime family physician for the Trumps. The doctor looked straight into the camera and said clearly, "The birth date listed for Barron doesn't match the hospital records we had for Melania at the time. There's a discrepancy that was never explained." The clip ended. The studio went quiet again. Trump's face flushed red. Fake news. he growled, but his voice cracked just a little at the end, like the words got stuck in his throat. He pointed at the screen. That guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Total fake news. Jimmy stayed calm, his tone even. Sir, this is a doctor who worked for your family for years. He's not some random guy on the internet. Trump tried to steer the conversation away. He sat up straighter and raised his voice. This is nothing but anti-American attacks, Jimmy. The same people who tried to take me down before are coming after my family now. It's disgusting. But Jimmy cut him off cleanly, not raising his voice at all. Do you have a DNA report that proves Barron is Melania's biological son, or are you scared to show it? The question landed hard. Trump's hand came down on the arm of the chair with a sharp slap. Not loud enough to be dramatic, but hard enough that everyone heard it. His eyes darted quickly to the audience, searching for some kind of support. Some familiar faces nodding along. A few people clapped lightly, but most just stared, waiting. Jimmy didn't wait long. He tapped his screen again and a new slide appeared on the monitors around the studio and on millions of TVs at home. It was a partial DNA report, blurred in places but clear enough in the key sections. The numbers showed a high probability match between Donald Trump and Barron Trump, with the maternal line listed under a different name. The audience gasped audibly. Trump's eyes widened. He pushed himself halfway out of his chair, half standing, then dropped back down heavily. His face turned deep red, almost purple. What the hell is this? He snapped. You're showing fake documents now? This is a setup. Jimmy kept his voice steady. This isn't fake, sir. It's a partial report that's been circulating for years in certain circles. People want to know why it's never been fully addressed. Trump's jaw clenched tight. He looked cornered for the first time, his usual quick comebacks failing him. The studio felt smaller, the lights hotter. Then Trump pointed a finger straight at Jimmy and spoke through gritted teeth. One more question like that, and I'm walking out of here. I mean it. The audience collectively shuddered. A low murmur spread through the crowd as people exchanged nervous glances. No one was laughing anymore. Trump sat back, breathing harder, staring at Jimmy like he was daring him to keep going. The silence that followed was heavier than any words. Then Jimmy leaned forward, his voice still calm, but now cutting straight to the bone. Mr. President, there have been rumors for years that you had an inappropriate relationship with Ivanka starting around 2015. People are saying Barron is the result of that. Is any of that true? The words barely left Jimmy's mouth before Trump exploded. You're disgusting! Trump roared, his voice booming through the studio. He jabbed a thick finger right at Jimmy's face. That's my daughter! How dare you ask me something like that on live television? You're sick! The audience gasped loud. A few people clapped, but most sat frozen, eyes wide. Trump's face was twisted with pure rage, his neck veins bulging. He wasn't playing anymore. This was raw. Jimmy didn't back down. Before Trump could keep shouting, Jimmy hit a button and a new face appeared on the big screen behind them. It was Sarah Klein, a former senior assistant to Ivanka Trump, joining live from an undisclosed location. She looked nervous but determined. I worked for Ivanka for 4 years, Sarah said, her voice steady. I personally saw an email from Melania. She was crying in the message. She wrote, I know the truth about Barron. I can't keep pretending. I saved screenshots. I still have them. Trump's eyes went wild. He lunged for the small control panel on his chair, trying to cut the microphone or kill the feed. Turn that off. Turn it off right now, he yelled, slamming buttons. But Jimmy kept full control. The feed stayed on. Sarah's words kept coming. Trump spun back toward Jimmy, breathing hard. This is a deep state setup. You're getting paid by them, Jimmy. I know about the envelope. You're on their payroll. Jimmy raised an eyebrow and tapped his tablet. A new image popped up on every screen in the studio. Bank records showing large transfers from a major anti-Trump pass directly to a production company linked to Jimmy's show. The amounts were clear, the dates recent. "These are public records, sir," Jimmy said evenly. "If you want to talk about money and influence, we can do that too. But right now, we're talking about your family." That was the breaking point. Trump shoved himself up from the chair so fast it scraped loudly across the floor. He took one heavy step toward Jimmy, his fists clenched at his sides. "You son of a bitch," he snarled. Two security guys in dark suits immediately jumped in, stepping between them with their hands out. "Sir, please sit down," one said firmly. The audience erupted, some people shouting, "Let him speak," while others yelled, "Get him out of here." The whole studio turned chaotic, voices overlapping, phones held up recording everything. For a few tense seconds, Trump stood there, glaring, chest heaving, security holding him back. Then he slowly lowered himself back into the chair, still breathing hard like he'd just run a mile. Sweat glistened on his forehead under the bright lights. He stared straight at Jimmy, eyes burning. Then, in a lower voice that still carried through every microphone, he dropped the bomb. "Barron is mine, but not the way you think." The words hung in the air like smoke. The audience went completely silent again, shocked. Jimmy's eyes narrowed, sensing the half-admission. Trump sat back, breathing heavily, his hands shaking slightly as he gripped the arms of the chair. Jimmy didn't waste a second after Trump's half-admission. He pressed a button on his desk and a new audio clip started playing through the studio speakers. The voice was unmistakably Melania's, cold, emotional, and raw. "He's not mine, Donald. You know that." The words echoed clearly. A third witness, the former longtime nanny who had worked for the family, appeared on screen to confirm it. "I was in the next room when she made that call. I heard everything. That recording is real." Trump's face went ghost white. All the red anger from before drained away in an instant. His hand started shaking as he reached forward, trying to grab the small microphone clipped to his jacket. He yanked at it hard, fingers fumbling. "Turn that off! Cut the damn feed!" he barked, his voice cracking. But the audio kept playing. Melania's words hit again. "He's not mine, Donald. You know that." That was when Trump completely lost it. "Ivanka and I, we were close, too close, okay?" he shouted, his voice booming through the studio. "But it was a mistake. It was one mistake." The second the words left his mouth, his eyes widened in pure panic. He immediately tried to take it back, waving his hands wildly. No, that's not what I meant. You're twisting everything. It's a lie." The audience exploded with noise. Gasps, shouts, and nervous laughter mixed together. Phones shot up everywhere, recording every second. Trump looked like he realized he had just blown a hole in his own defense. Jimmy leaned in closer, his voice deadly calm. "You just admitted you were too close with Ivanka. Do you want to explain that to the country right now before everyone watching draws their own conclusion?" Trump tried to force a smile, but it came out twisted and ugly. His lips barely moved. Then, bam! He slammed his open hand down hard on the desk for the second time that night. The impact was so strong the microphone stand rattled, and the sound boomed through the speakers like a gunshot. Everyone in the front rows jumped. His breathing was ragged now, chest rising and falling fast. Sweat rolled down his temples. For the first time, the most powerful man in the room looked truly trapped. Right then, the studio lights started flickering. Once, twice, then they dimmed and brightened again in quick bursts. A technician in the control booth had clearly panicked and hit the wrong switch. The flashing lights made the whole scene feel like it was about to collapse. Shadows jumped across Trump's face. The audience murmured louder, some people standing up in their seats. Trump glared at Jimmy with pure fury, but his usual fire was mixed with something else now. Fear. Trump shoved himself up from the chair one last time, his face red and twisted with rage. He pointed straight at the main camera and barked, "This interview is over. I'm leaving. Right now." He started to turn toward the exit, but Jimmy's voice cut through the air. cool and steady as ever. If you walk out that door, the whole country is going to conclude that Barron really is your son with Ivanka. Is that the image you want to leave behind, Mr. President? Trump froze mid-step. The words hit him hard. He spun back around, eyes blazing. Before he could answer, Jimmy hit the final button. A live video feed popped up on every screen in the studio. An elderly retired doctor, Dr. Richard Langford, appeared. He had worked at the private clinic where Barron was born. Looking straight into the camera, he held up a document and read it clearly. Paternity probability is 99.8% between Donald J. Trump and Barron Trump. The maternal line is listed as Ivanka Trump. The studio went dead silent for half a second, then erupted in shocked gasps. The numbers hung there in giant letters on the screen. 99.8%. Undeniable. Trump lost control completely. He lunged toward the big monitor, reaching out like he wanted to smash it. "That's doctored!" he screamed at the top of his lungs. "It's fake! All of it is fake!" Two security guards grabbed him from behind before he could reach the screen, holding his arms tight. Trump struggled against them, still shouting, his face inches from the monitor. "Let me go! This is a witch hunt!" The guards held firm, keeping him in place as the doctor continued speaking calmly on the live feed. Trump's chest heaved, sweat pouring down his face. The entire room felt like it was spinning out of control. Then came the breaking point. Trump ripped the microphone off his jacket with one violent yank, the wire snapping loudly. He threw it hard onto the studio floor. The mic bounced once with a loud thud that echoed through the speakers. Without another word, he stormed toward the side exit, security still flanking him. But right before he reached the door, he stopped. He turned his head slowly, looked straight back at Jimmy and the cameras, and delivered his final shot in a low, bitter voice. "Melania knows, and she forgave me. That's all you'll ever get." The words landed like a bomb. For a split second, nobody moved. Then Trump pushed through the door. The heavy studio door slammed shut behind him with a deafening bang that rang through the entire building. The audience exploded. People jumped to their feet all at once. Some clapped wildly, others booed and shouted. The noise was chaotic. Cheers, jeers, and stunned yelling mixing together in one giant roar. Phones were held high, flashing and recording every second of the madness. The lights stayed on bright, capturing it all. Jimmy Kimmel stayed seated alone in the guest chair as the chaos slowly settled around him. The audience was still on their feet, some cheering, some yelling. He looked straight into the main camera, his voice calm but firm. "Tonight we didn't get all the answers," he said, "but we got the truth that he couldn't hide." The words landed heavy. A few people clapped louder while others sat back down, stunned. The studio felt electric, like everyone knew they had just witnessed something that would be talked about for years. Cut to the backstage hallway. Trump stormed out of the building and climbed into the back of his black SUV, still breathing hard. The door slammed shut. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands and dialed Ivanka immediately. When she picked up, his voice came out rough and unsteady. "They know," he said, "everything. Fix it. Call whoever you have to. Fix it now." The line went quiet for a second before he hung up. Trump stared out the tinted window, jaw clenched tight, as the car pulled away into the New York night. Back in the studio, a quick haunting flashback hit the screens for just a few seconds. Grainy footage from 2015. Trump and Ivanka standing unusually close at a family event, his hand lingering on her back a beat too long, her smile tight and uncomfortable. No words, no explanation. Just that single silent moment that now felt loaded with everything that had exploded tonight. The image faded fast, but it left a chill in the air. Inside the studio, the audience was losing their minds. People were shouting, laughing nervously, arguing with each other. Phones lit up everywhere as tweets, posts, and live streams exploded across social media. Hashtags like hashtag Barron Bombshell and hashtag Trump Walkout were already trending within minutes. The noise was deafening. cheers mixing with booze, shock turning into pure frenzy. Jimmy waited for the energy to dip just a little, then raised his hand for quiet. He picked up his phone and held it up to the camera. "I just received a text message from Melania Trump, sent moments ago," he said. The studio fell silent again. Jimmy read it slowly, word for word. He lied to all of us. The words hung in the air like smoke. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some people covered their mouths. Others started yelling again. Jimmy set the phone down and looked back at the camera, letting the message sink in deep. The lights in the studio began to dim slowly. The big screens behind Jimmy faded to black. One final line appeared in bold white letters across the darkness. "To be continued." The audience roared one last time as the credits rolled and the feed cut. But the echo of that night, the accusations, the half-confessions, the slammed door, and Melania's chilling text, refused to die. It was already spreading like wildfire across the country, and nobody knew what would blow up next.